Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Unboxed, your front row seat to the stories, struggles, and secrets behind today's most innovative startups, entrepreneurs, and investors. I'm your host, AJ, and today we're diving into the multifaceted world of Blake Rea. Blake is not just a cybersecurity and compliance specialist at Petronella Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics, he's also a digital marketing expert, a passionate filmmaker, and an avid watch collector. Blake's story is a compelling blend of technical prowess and creative flair. Today we'll explore his unique approach to balancing these diverse interests, the challenges he's faced, and the innovative strategies he's developed along the way. Whether you're dealing with cybersecurity compliance, looking to enhance your marketing strategies, or seeking inspiration for your creative projects, Blake's insights will be invaluable. So without further ado, let's dive into the world of cybersecurity, digital marketing, and creative storytelling with Blake Rea. Welcome to the show, Blake. Give us a 60-second backstory on your entrepreneurial journey. How'd you get the idea of starting your businesses, and what was your career before taking the entrepreneurial leap?
Yeah, I think that's how I got into entrepreneurship. I just hopped around jobs forever, and I just never felt at home. I didn't feel comfortable. I always felt like I was helping somebody else achieve their dreams. So it just naturally led me right into to doing my own thing, and yeah. So I've never really looked back, and I've had multiple businesses that I've tried my shot at. I had a marketing agency, which was really good. It just was too much work. And then yeah, so I was doing Google ads and all that fun stuff, Facebook ads. I mostly was doing Google. And then led me to here, where we have Lonely Wrist, which is a podcast, a blog, and a YouTube. And we talk about horology, watches, and it's going wildly successful. And I love every second of it. I kill myself producing content, but I just love every second of it. Yeah, I do some cybersecurity consulting here and then. So it just depends on the day and the project, and yeah, I do some consulting in that space. Obviously I juggle a few things, but yeah, I'm pretty consistently doing some consulting. Yeah, you as an entrepreneur, a modern entrepreneur, you can't have one venture. You have to have multiple sources of revenue. It's just like a barrier, because I have a family, I have a wife, and I have obligations, family obligations to take care of. So just that sense of stability, from having multiple different avenues that I can produce income has given me and my family that sense of security.
Blake, cybersecurity and regulatory compliance can feel like navigating a labyrinth. Can you share some of the most daunting challenges you've faced in this field and the innovative strategies you've used to overcome them?
Cybersecurity and compliance is always tricky because it's like we kind of consider it like being like a trauma doctor. If you're in an emergency room and somebody comes to you and they're in pain, you have to figure out what is causing the pain. So the easiest way that we do that is we start off by essentially doing an assessment of their business, right? Or in this case, it would be a doctor's examination. And we see what's going on. We see what's wrong. A lot of people come to us and say, hey, I've been hacked, or, there's been a cybersecurity breach, or, there's somebody stalking me, or whatever. And so, we'll of course gain access to, their network or devices or whatever is, they feel like is going on. And we'll, of course run scans. Compliance is a little trickier because, they're trying to meet some mandates that are set from a higher body, such as the government saying, hey, we want them to have this set of requirements before we can give them money, to work on XYZ product or service, or develop some type of technology. And the challenge with that is the needle is always moving. The government is always reassessing these regulations. They're always enhancing them. They're always looking at them with a magnification lens. So keeping up with the compliance regulations is a challenge in itself. As far as innovating strategies to help people become compliant, in a specific instance, we follow the CMMC, the Cyber Maturity Model Certification Framework, and a lot of people who have to meet CMMC mandates are doing business with the government, the defense industrial base, and in that case, you're essentially scored by how mature you are. And so depending on the compliance regulation and that control, that's what they're called, they weight you to score, kind of like doing your homework. They have a 5, a +5 or a -5, a +3 or a -3, or 0 or a -1. So let's just say somebody takes this assessment, they have a -5 for the way that they answer this question, or their maturity in that control. What we can do is we can essentially sort those by weight. So like we can say, okay, look, here's all the -5s. If we address these first, we can streamline their compliance quicker. And it's just something that simple that people appreciate, just understanding the frameworks and figuring out like how to navigate the frameworks. There's no like magic one pill, one solution, because it's all dependent on the maturity of the organization and the framework they're trying to meet. That helps us determine the best course of action for them.
Can you walk us through a particularly challenging case where your expertise in cybersecurity and compliance made a substantial difference for a client? What were the key strategies you implemented, and what was the transformative impact on their business?
Yeah, I need to think about that one. That's a challenging one. We've had multiple, as far as making an impact. Let's start there. A lot of times there is a psychological element to a cybersecurity attack or breach, and it's more like manipulation. They're trying to control their victim. And so one way that cybersecurity attackers do that is from fear, right? So they'll instill fear into their victims, right? Through psychological manipulation, threats, or whatever. So I think one of the more impactful things that happens on a day-to-day basis is letting people know that there is that psychological aspect of the attack. People feel helpless, and people feel scared, and people feel like their life is over. We had this one lady that came to us, and she was like, hey, like my internet's been attacked. My go, she pretty much said everything, and her whole entire life was hacked. And she said people were following her, people were stalking her. Obviously as a cybersecurity specialist, expert, like I can't help you deal with like people that are stalking you in real life. I can't control that. But, understanding the victim's mentality is, that their job is to instill fear into their victim, and just to let her know, like, hey, we're there for you. Hey, I promise it's not as serious as you think it is. Like, this is a lot of attacks are very low level attacks. Somebody will gain access to, your iCloud account, or, they'll gain access to your Gmail, or, basic things like your Wi-Fi network. And so it depends on how intertwined your devices are and your life is. Like if you use the same passwords across every account, and you have the same email for every account, something as simple as turning two-factor authentication on can stop a lot of attacks. But we do our best, a lot of times they don't listen. Cybersecurity, sadly, is one of those industries that is dominated by big players. And so it leaves a lot of space for us as a boutique, cybersecurity firm to gain market share because there's such big players, and those big players dictate like the industry, like the rates, the going rates, the labor, the hardware prices. Like they're such big players in the industry that luckily enough, we've been in the industry for so long, we've been able to accumulate resources and assets outside of the way that the market has shifted, if that makes sense. We have had experience in how to navigate the software, the labor, the hardware, because cybersecurity and IT is a perfect mix of having experienced people, having technical know-how, having assets to assist you with your job, and then knowing how to relate to the needs of the customer. So you have to have this perfect cocktail. And so yeah, I feel particularly good when I deal with somebody who's going through those instances, and I have the ability to calm them down and let them know it's not as severe and serious. And it's very rewarding, you feel like like Batman or something. I don't know. You feel like their happiness is in your hands. Their mental well-being. You feel like a specialist, a doctor. I don't know. You feel like you're helping people and changing people's lives. And
What are some of the biggest misconceptions business leaders have about cybersecurity and compliance? How do you work to demystify these complexities and empower them to take proactive steps?
There's a very simple and it's a very complex question, but there's a very simple answer to it. People just need to do it. A lot of times when people get compliance regulations, they're so complex, they're so overwhelmed. Their first action is to figure out how they can bypass it, how they can get around it, how they can not do it. And a lot of times your compliance path is determined by the data that you house, the data you possess, the industry that you serve. And if you're doing business with the government or in medical, it just determines the line of business that you're in, what cybersecurity frameworks you have to meet. So the simplest, people just, you can't circumvent these things. You can't not do it. And so a lot of businesses will figure out ways that they can not do it. And in that instance, like let's just say, for example, they have to be HIPAA compliant. They'll find a solution like a software service that essentially houses their patient data, like some software service that is HIPAA compliant. But on top of that, for a medical practice or a dentist office that does have patient information, you are responsible to have a penetration test every year. And so they're saying to themselves, hey, like we don't have any data, we don't have to be HIPAA compliant, we don't have to follow some of these regulations. But the real truth is that you still do, because you're in a HIPAA protected, you're in an industry where HIPAA data is still being shared and being visualized. So yeah, that's the simple one. Like you don't try and look for ways to circumvent your compliance. Just do it. Just do it. Misinformation is the biggest challenge that we face, because we're kind of like defying all odds. So, they'll reach out to us and they'll say, hey, look, we have to be this compliant, this compliance, we have to follow this regulatory compliance. But anyways, a lot of these companies will have their own IT firms. So their own IT firms will say, oh, no, we are doing this or we are doing that. And they're they're essentially misinforming. Not always, but they become very defensive. They're like, oh, if I say no to this, my job is at jeopardy because we're supposed to be doing this, or sometimes they don't even know that they're supposed to be following certain mandates, or there's just a lot of moving parts that has to happen, and there's a lot of oversight, and sometimes that oversight, especially in the IT manager's role, gets overlooked because they have so many things that they have to do on a day-to-day basis. Compliance is one of the last things they want to do. So when leadership asks, like, how are we meeting this framework? How are we meeting this control? A lot of times the cybersecurity or the IT people will just say, oh yeah, we're doing it this way or that way. They'll give them a very canned response. And yeah, so, misinformation is the biggest one, and then these leaders will go read online, like some article or something, or some, nobody's actually reading the real frameworks. They're reading like summaries of the frameworks, and those summaries are addressing a small minority, of the people that are required to meet that framework. So our huge battle that we face every day is misinformation. And if you have to meet one of these mandates, you need to talk to a compliance specialist. Like, you need to consult with somebody, because like I said earlier, like, the needs are dependent on your business, your customers, the sectors you're in, the data you possess. There's no magic pill. People are looking for that magic pill, like a magic weight loss pill. It doesn't exist in cybersecurity.
Blake, your journey into the realms of cybersecurity and compliance is intriguing. Could you delve into what initially sparked your interest in this field? Additionally, I'm curious about.
I I've been in. So actually, it was marketing that led me to cybersecurity. So I started off doing marketing for a cybersecurity firm, and it's the firm I'm with now. It's been a long time, but we had a pretty sizable team, and as I was figuring out, obviously as a marketer, you have to figure out the solutions to people's problems, right? And you have to meet them halfway. So during my discovery process, and as I, was learning about the challenges of our customers, I became like obsessed with cybersecurity. It was an industry that is evolving so rapidly, and I saw so much opportunity, because every year in cybersecurity, like, there is a huge amount of the workforce that is looking for cybersecurity experts, but there's a very small percentage of people that are actually like studying or going to school or graduating, into cybersecurity programs. So I just saw a huge demand, and especially with everything going cloud and everything going digital, everybody living on the internet. I mean, it was just like a laser, shined down on me, that like was burning me alive, that like this was what I had to do. And I just became so obsessed with solving these problems, these cybersecurity problems, that that as a marketer, you're a problem solver, like, so, you can be a marketer, you could be a salesperson that has a marketing mind or whatever. So I had that marketing mind, but cybersecurity was the industry that just like burned me alive, to that I had to fulfill. So yeah, I mean, I realized that my marketing mentality of problem and solution was suiting me best in cybersecurity. And then I still kind of dabble in both spaces. I mostly do marketing for cybersecurity, the cybersecurity industry. And then I do, during that time, my boss was like, hey, like, my contractor was like, hey, I want you to, help me with these cybersecurity frameworks, because I have a very detail focused mind. And, he's the one that helped me, gain some certifications. And he's the one that pushed me into helping with compliance. And yeah. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. So a lot of the stuff that happens in compliance is you have to be a part of like a bigger organization. It's really hard to be like an independent compliance expert because again, you have to have access to large amounts of workforce or like skills. You need a team. So a lot of the compliance specialists will find kind of like an umbrella, kind of like an organization to hang their hat. And yeah, so I just kind of hung my hat where I got started, and then at the time, my lack of experience in the cybersecurity industry, this was, almost 8 years ago, gave a fresh perspective on the problems. And I was, because it's so easy, because cybersecurity and compliance is such a complicated industry. I was looking at it as like, how can I uncomplicate this? And how can I solve complex problems with simple answers? So my perspective was what kept me here, I guess. So
Let's dive into your digital marketing expertise with your extensive background in SEO, PPC, and marketing automation. How do you ensure a cohesive digital marketing strategy? Can you share a story where this approach led to remarkable results?
yeah, I don't do so the type of marketing that I do is mostly like pay-per-click advertising. So PPC. Obviously, to a degree, I mean, you have to have strong SEO to help you rank on Google. But the way that I've always seen it is it's like it has to be like a marriage. It's like a yin yang or something, and a lot of times, a lot of people who are getting their business going, I will recommend to start with pay-per-click advertising because essentially you can force your way or pay your way to the top of the search engines. And meanwhile, that will buy you time to work on your SEO. And search engine optimization is a long game. There's so many different ways that you do it. On page is the most effective, in my opinion. And everybody does SEO differently, but the extent of search engine optimization that I do is focusing on page. Keyword planning, and then building content around the keyword plans, writing blogs, the grit work that every business has to do for you to be successful online. You just need to have a lot of content out there. You need to have a lot of fishing rods in. Exactly. If you're just starting a business, you need to be writing content every week. You need to be doing keyword research, figuring out what people are trying to figure out on the internet today and how your business relates to those industries, and write content about it, answer those questions that people have consistently. And once you've done that, once a week for a year, if not multiple years, it's just a snowball. It's a snowball effect. You just have to keep going. And meanwhile, you're using the pay-per-click advertising as a way to supplement. You're getting leads, you're getting opportunities, and you're figuring out how your services can cater to those leads. So you're kind of perfecting your business model by doing those in conjunction, starting with pay-per-click advertising, and then the leads, the opportunities, the revenue that you produce from pay-per-click advertising pays for search engine optimization, on page backlinking, whatever. And that just that's the formula, that's the recipe.
The digital marketing landscape is always evolving. What emerging trends or technologies are you most excited about? And how do you see them reshaping the way businesses connect with their audiences?
Chat GPT, 100%, OpenAI, like, you know, is bridge the gap, and helping, like, with the open language model, that, yeah, ALM, action language model, has given people the opportunity to have assistants producing their content. You can give it a prompt and it'll pop out a blog post in 20 seconds, 15 seconds, and it helps you get from nowhere to somewhere a lot quicker. So, the way that I see it is now, because of that, people can't say, "Oh, I don't know how to blog. I don't even know where to start. I can't do that. Like, I can't do that for my business." You can now, because of OpenAI, because of ChatGPT, and a lot of people are. I embrace it. I embrace that technology. Anything that helps me, you, them, anybody do their job more efficiently, we need to embrace that. And so I've been open about my use of ChatGPT and its assistance. It saves me a lot of time. I use it pretty much as much as I can. And some people who are on the fence of embracing it, have said, like, or like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's just ChatGPT," and they're like, "What? Like, I didn't even know you could do that," So I have, been using it since its debut, and I've been experimenting with, ChatGPT 3, 4, and now the new one, 4.0, and you become a master at feeding it prompts. You become experienced in that. So I understand the type of content that I want to get from the language model, and so I feed it the right prompt. You know, so I would tell people to embrace that technology. It's amazing technology. It's there to stay. You're not you're not cheating. You're getting yourself off the ground. And don't be embarrassed for using such technology if it helps you. You know.
Indeed, it's common for individuals to be hesitant about embracing new technologies, such as AI. For instance, I had a conversation with a marketing agency owner about the integration of AI in their operations. When asked if they utilized AI, the response was negative, accompanied by a perception that AI could be detrimental. I endeavored to change this viewpoint by explaining how AI can enhance efficiency, speed up processes, and offer a broader range of ideas and perspectives. Moreover, during a SANS cybersecurity webinar focused on vulnerabilities I attended, the moderator highlighted an insightful point about leadership in tech. They emphasized the importance of team leaders encouraging their members to leverage AI, underscoring its potential to revolutionize our approach to problem solving and innovation.
Yeah, and I mean, you're making life harder for yourself by not using it. You know, like, your competition is using it. You should be too. And if you're not using it, I'm sorry, you're gonna get left in the Stone Age. I'm sorry.
Your dual role as a cybersecurity expert and filmmaker is fascinating. How do you balance the precision required in cybersecurity with the creativity needed for filmmaking? Any crossover skills that benefit both fields?
I started off in film. As you can see, we're starting to come full circle here. I So the way that I got into marketing is because of film, and I was doing this video content for people, and they would hire me, and I would go shoot this beautiful, like, commercial, this beautiful piece of content, and I'd deliver it to them, and they would never hire me again. And I was like, "What the heck is going on?" Like, something's wrong here. And so I very quickly learned that they didn't know how to use my content. They didn't know how to leverage the content produced. that was the first problem that I was like, okay, well, if you don't know how to use it, I'm going to help you use it. So that's what led me into marketing. So marketing led me into film, or film led me into marketing. Marketing led me into cybersecurity. So yeah, I started off doing skateboard videos with my friends, and I was never really good at skateboarding. Like my friends were always, had more courage than I did to do crazier things. And so yeah, it kind of defaulted me to filming, and filming their tricks and all that. And yeah, that led me to YouTube, and that led me to publishing content, to publishing videos. And it was very easy to adapt to business needs because it's the same thing. I've always had that marketing mentality. Like my approach has always been very simple. Like what do you want to convince people of, or what do you want to tell them? And so how do you exploit that visually? Like if you're talking about, if you're a tea company or a coffee company, you're talking about producing the best coffee or the best tea. How do you produce it? Why is it special? Oh, it's special because we grow it in this region, or we have this climate, or whatever. Okay, I know what I need to show now. You just told me I need to show the region that it was filmed in. I need to show the perfect climate. I need to show the farmers that are farming these tea leaves, these coffee beans. Like I need to show them giving attention to the crops and how they process it, how they package it, and how they select. I mean, it's very self-explanatory from there. And in the weirdest way, these three things that you would think would never be connected somehow have bridged my life. To be successful in any industry, you need to have a fresh perspective. So I think my perspective has helped me with bridging those industries. I always look at the simplest resolution, and I say this a lot to, depending on who I'm talking to, right? Like if my wife is like, hey, like, let's go get some coffee, right? That sounds like a very simple task to go get coffee, right? But I'm like, oh, I got to get up, get out of bed, put my shoes on, get dressed. I need to clean up myself. I need to, comb my hair. I need to go downstairs. I need to, find my car keys. I need to find my wallet, wherever that's at, and get in my car and then drive to the coffee shop and then wait in line and make the order, drive home, then come back, walk up the stairs, like, undress or whatever, get comfortable and then, give you the coffee. Right. So that is the weird challenge, right? Because everything is always more complicated than it seems. Right. So I naturally have a way of simplifying that, because in my real world, I have to do all those things to get coffee, right, for my wife. But my wife is just like, oh, just go get the coffee, and I'm like, okay, I'll go get the coffee, So, so, yeah, I think my obsession with simplifying complicated things has helped me tremendously in my career and my entrepreneurial journey.
Absolutely, there's profound wisdom in simplification. It's like peeling back the layers of a complex issue to reveal its core. For instance, when you're deep into a technical problem and then attempt to explain it to someone without a technical background, maybe a friend or family member, you naturally simplify it. This act of simplification isn't just for their benefit, it often grants you a new perspective. Suddenly, the solution to the problem becomes clear, and more often than not, it's beautifully simple. Simplification isn't just about understanding, it's about uncovering the elegance in simplicity.
That's what happens a lot of time, because you get involved in that process and you realize it's a lot. There's either two things that are going to happen. It's either going to be more complex than you expected, or it's going to be simpler than you expected. And if it's more complex, all you have to do is figure out how you can break it apart to make it digestible. So, okay, it's super complex. Okay, well, what is my first milestone that I need to accomplish to get to that complex problem, And so all you do again is you look at it from a simpler perspective. You can't like go to a restaurant and order the whole menu. You'll order your appetizers, then you'll order your entree, and then you'll get your dessert. You don't bring all that out at the same time. You do it in pieces and in small parts, and you work your way there, right? To being the mission of eating is to be full, right? Especially me. I'm a big guy. Yeah. Like your mission is to be full by the time and no longer hungry, so looking at it in small pieces that you can process, that you can digest, is the way that you handle complex problems.
Your approach to filmmaking emphasizes innovative storytelling. Can you share a project where your creative process led to a particularly compelling narrative? What was your inspiration and the outcome?
I mean, filmmaking is all about bottling emotions. So the more experienced you are as a filmmaker, you become experienced at withholding information and using that information later to compel the audience. And so this wasn't a paid project, but my friend ironically was going to film school, and I actually dropped out of film school. But from as going to film school, and he had a tragic incident that happened to him. His father was a police officer, and his father was like a member of like a SWAT team. And after a SWAT call out, he pulled the pin on an explosive device, and he never deployed the explosive device. So when he got home from the call, he was in his garage. He was trying to put the pin back in. It was a flashbang. He was trying to put the pin back in it, and for whatever reason, it exploded, and obviously causing traumatic injuries to him. And so for his graduation project, he kind of wanted to tell the story of his father, and it was a very challenging project because there was a lot of emotions. Like, this is my friend, we're telling the story on how his father passed away. And so compelling storytelling is getting people involved in the narrative, getting people participating, making relatable things. Everybody has a dad. Everybody's dad hopefully comes home. Everybody's dad has a job, right? Hopefully. So making all that relatable to everybody. Not everybody's dad's a police officer. Not everybody's dad has an explosive, but everybody's has probably been to their garage, right? If you have a garage. So, and in this specific instance, what we did was we told the whole story, and we didn't show the garage until the end of the content. And we showed later, like in the garage we filmed, there was marks on the wall. Still, this happened like 7-8 years ago or something. Like this was at that time. So there were still explosive marks on the wall, and so we filmed that. Right. Like we filmed that. And so here you are hearing this whole story from the widow, the wife of his dad who passed away. It wasn't his mom. It was like a stepmom. And then we show that, and it makes it real. And then after, we got that emotional impact, we kind of built her back up, oh, I'm better now. And I love him and I miss him every day, but I know he's looking down on me. And their whole goal was to travel together. And so, then, she was like, I haven't been able to travel. Obviously I wasn't able to travel with my late husband, but I've been doing the traveling myself, and, he'd be proud of me. And, we started showing these moments that they would have had together. and it became a really beautiful story. And so yeah, that's how you, as a storyteller, you have to withhold information until the right time. You can't give your whole story from the start. You have to withhold and slowly.
Personal interest into your watch collector's perspective. As a dedicated watch collector, you must have a unique perspective on the blend of artistry and precision. How has this passion influenced your professional life, especially in cybersecurity and digital marketing?
I think understanding, as a watch collector, you have to be patient, right? Patient is a very, very, very important virtue as a watch collector. And so the way that translates into my professional life is just understanding that you don't have to have everything right now. And it's made me more patient and more resilient because, a lot of the time a lot of time as a watch collector is spent waiting. Like, you're either saving up money for a watch or you're waiting for somebody to sell it to you. I know that sounds weird. And so it's helped me become incredibly patient. And I noticed that in my personal life. I noticed that in my professional life. A lot of stressful things for other people, they don't tend to bother me. And as I've been more recently going to therapy and embracing, a therapist. And so, whenever I talk to her, she's like, the amount of stuff that you do on a daily basis is crazy, insane. So, yeah, I mean, as a watch collector, I've became patient, I became resilient, I became stronger. I embrace harder challenges. I feel like because of me being a watch collector. I know that sounds weird to say.
Living in Las Vegas, a city known for its vibrant and dynamic environment, how has this influenced your creative and professional pursuits? Any specific moments where the city's energy sparked a great idea or project?
I wouldn't say it is directly inspired a project, but it definitely keeps me guessing. It definitely keeps me excited. And you can go watch any movie. Like, there's a lot of movies that are filmed in Vegas, And the other day, I went back and rewatched the film because I went back and rewatched that, and of course, that's entirely shot in Vegas for the most part, I believe. But the whole plot is in Vegas. But just to see from then, when the movie was filmed, to now, how much the city has changed. And I know with confidence, right? I lived in smaller cities. I lived in Raleigh. I lived in Charlotte. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in Amsterdam. I've lived in Georgia. I've lived in Istanbul. And you become complacent in a city usually, right? Especially like in North Carolina, right? I was never sure of how big the city was going to grow, and how much it was going to evolve and change. And that is entirely not the case with Vegas. We got a Formula One race, and we're getting I think we're getting a baseball team now. I mean, we got a football team. Eventually, I'm sure we'll have a basketball team, like a men's basketball team. Like, the city is always changing, it's always evolving, it's always growing, and that inspires me to continue going with what I'm doing. Because again, I have to keep up with the times. But also, in the simplest form, I love, even like Ocean's 11, right? That's it's a very nice movie. It's very inspiring. After they've completed the heist and they're standing right there on Las Vegas Boulevard, right in front of the Bellagio with the fountains, and it kind of gives you that Scarface. I don't know if Scarface is the right word, but it gives you that Scarface vibe, like the world is yours, like it's a beautiful world. You could do whatever you want to do. You can accomplish anything. So I definitely look to to capturing that inspiration from the city for sure.
Your career spans from cybersecurity to filmmaking. What core values have driven your success across these diverse fields, and how do they influence your approach to both technical and creative challenges?
It's a really challenging question to answer because similar and this I mean you're going to see the full circle moment here. You know, when you asked me about cybersecurity, every business that we address is different. Every business has different challenges, different needs, different requirements, and I'm bringing that back into watch collecting. You as a watch collector may want different watches than me as a watch collector. So so the the thing that inspires me as a watch collector is one, learning and meeting other collectors, you know, people that have a similar sickness, and two is understanding why they collect certain watches, right? And so how they develop their collection is something that's very interesting to me. But when it comes back to waiting, you know, watches are expensive, you know, especially nice watches, you know, Rolexes or Pateks or APs. Like, you know, it took me a really long time to save up for my first Rolex, you know, and now, you know, I have more than one. I have over 100 watches right now. And I Yeah, you know, I've got every brand that a watch collector would want. You know, I've got Rolex, I've got Panerai, I've got JLC, I've got Cartier, you know, I've got IWC, I've got Zenith. I mean, I've got Breitling, Omega, you know, I mean, I've got every watch collection, every watch brand that you would want in your collection. And so again, you know, going back to the the simplifying marketing, you know, the complex problems that, you know, a marketer solves is, you know, you don't have to get that all right now, right? You know, so yeah, obviously finances, you know, I just can't go if I had $1 million to go buy on spend on watches, I you know, I'd buy everything right now. But, you know, that's not entirely the case, right? You know, it's not, first of all, it's not smart, right? And then second of all, it's just not typical. So yeah, I mean, you know, when you're spending $10,000 on a watch, you know, you have to, one, be sure that you love it. And so that takes time, patience, you know, a certain amount of self-realization, you know, like how, once I get this watch, how am I going to wear it? Right? How am I going to use it? Like, how is it going to add to my collection? How am I going to implement it into my life? And then two, you know, Rolex is a weird example. I have 3 or 4 more Rolexes that I want, and if Rolex would sell them to me, I would buy them right now. But Rolex is weird because they won't give you all your watches at one time. You know, they want to make sure you're a collector. They want to make sure that you're holding on to your watches, that you're not selling your watches. Because a lot of times in Rolexes, you can buy them for this price and you can sell them for that price. So immediately, you know, back during COVID, you could buy, if you could get a Rolex Daytona for $14,000, you could sell it the next day for 35 to $40,000 the next day, you know? So, you know, Rolex wanted to make sure that that wasn't happening, right? So you need to be a collector, you know, you need to be a real collector before they'll allocate a watch to you. And so it's not like you could just go in and buy them, you know. And if that was the case, I would have probably over 6 Rolexes now, which I'm halfway there. I have 3 Rolexes, and yeah, I'm working my way there. So
Could you please explain the difference between a watch collector and a watch flipper?
Yeah, that's there's a simple answer to that. You know, you a lot of times the line between collector and flipper kind of get misconstrued, like miscommunicated, because as a collector, you're always trying to refine your collection. And so I don't sell watches. I don't sell watches. I have let go of watches because they're beautiful and I just don't appreciate them. Right? So as a collector, you're always trying to refine your collection. And so it puts people into this cycle of buying and selling watches and moving them, moving them in and out. There's a lot of turnover that happens. But, I would say you can call yourself a collector if you feel like you're a collector, one, but also you have that sickness where, there's been an instance where I purchased a watch and I purchased it for, X dollars, and it was worth 10 or 20 times what I paid for it. Like I would have made a lot of money selling it, but I didn't do it because I loved the watch more than I loved the money. And now hindsight, the watch is back is worth back to what I paid for it. So I would define a true collector as somebody who doesn't care about the market of watches and they just buy watches and love them and appreciate them no matter what. So that would be to me a true collector.
Absolutely. Could you share with us how you became a watch collector and what sparked that passion, including when it began?
I used to help my mom with like general labor when I was younger. She used to manage this apartment complex and they were going through and they were like renovating and upgrading a lot of these apartments. And so a part of that process was to add new flooring, to add new tile. It used to be carpet and they were putting tile in them and making them look nice. And so I was on break after tiling a floor and I was sitting in the little garden area and I look over and there's a watch right there. Somebody left their watch sitting on a window. And I took it to my mom and I was like, "Hey, look, somebody left this watch here. Like, why don't you hang on to it in case somebody comes looking for it?" It was a two-tone chronograph. And, I remember thinking in my sick mind, I was like, I hope somebody doesn't come for it. Like, I don't want them to come for it because I want this, I want this to be mine. And so I think maybe like 4, 5, 6 or 7 weeks went by, and I was asking my mom like every week, like, "Hey, did somebody come for the watch? Did somebody come for the watch? Did somebody come for the watch?" She kept saying no. And so eventually she's like, "Look, Blake, nobody's coming for it. You can have it, and if they do come for it, you need to, you can't get rid of this. Like, if they do come for it, you're gonna have to give it back." And I was like, "All right, no problem." And nobody ever came. So yeah, and then I'm obsessed with the practicality of it. The fact is like that watches are essentially little machines, little engines on your wrist, and they're perfectly combining engineering, artistry, attention to detail. Like they're like a perfect recipe of all of that, perfect cocktail. And so I just became obsessed with that. Like the amount of attention to detail that goes into crafting watch. I started to recognize how watches could be beautiful, and so yeah, I started off collecting like really affordable watches, and then once you get your first really nice watch, you're either gonna stop right there or you're gonna keep going. I buy watches for occasions and And obviously watches are like they're a time machine to me. I can look at a watch that I've worn and remember special things that I've done in my life or tragic things that have happened in my life, you know, just by looking at my watch, you know, and like I've got watches that I'll never sell because I've had special moments with them, like I have an Omega Speedmaster that was really my first like big boy watch. It's my first really, really, really expensive watch. And when I say expensive, that back in the day was like 5 or 6 thousand to me. I thought that was, like the most expensive watch I'd ever owned. But I remember all the time that I've spent wearing that, all the good times. I got married to my wife, my beautiful wife, in that watch. And yeah, so every time I wear that Speedmaster, I look at I think about how long it took me to save to buy it. I think about all the highs and lows. I just got it when I just started my marketing agency, and I had met my first client goals. I thought about that. I think about how it's progressed with me and all the things I've done with it between now and then, traveling, like I said, getting married in that watch. And yeah, I mean, I think about that pretty much every time I wear that, um, yeah. And that's sad. That's the sad part because every watch has some type of sentimental value to me. That's how I ended up here. I'm like, oh, I can't sell that watch. I did this and that. I bought that on my birthday, and my 30th birthday. I can't sell that. Like, why would I ever sell that? Like, so that's the worst thing about it. Because I have accomplished a lot in my life, and I have achieved a lot of what I've wanted to do in my life. It makes it harder as a collector to forget those small, insignificant moments in entrepreneurship that have led me to here. So
Looking back on your multifaceted career, what are the key lessons you've learned that you believe are crucial for aspiring entrepreneurs? Any pivotal moments or decisions that significantly shaped your journey?
I love this question. I think there is a process to becoming an entrepreneur. Like you either got it or you and that's okay if you don't, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that. Whenever you level up or you acquire whatever it is in your business, right? Whatever it is in your business, your goal, like, and I look at it as in watch collecting, I get a new watch and you became so ecstatic. And I, it's like I'm reborn in that moment with the same information that I had my whole life. That sounds so weird to say, but that's how entrepreneurs have to think. You have to be a hoarder of information, a hoarder of skills, a hoarder of emotions, a hoarder of traits, like quality traits. And you have to have that curiosity to question everything. And obviously there's you have to understand, you have to be grounded too. Like you just can't be delusional, like you have to have some grounding. And as an entrepreneur, like the only grounding that we have is data, like real factual data. Like, oh, okay, like my business, it costs this to produce my product, we're not selling them, whatever. you know you have to be resilient to failure. And so the only direction that an entrepreneur is guided by is real concrete factual data. And understanding that is a challenge, but as you understand that you can use that to guide your journey as an entrepreneur, it will make life a lot easier. As an entrepreneur, I mean, there's nothing easy about being an entrepreneur, but just understanding that, you're making sacrifices now, the future good of your business, your family, or whatever.
If you could gift a single book to every entrepreneur in the world, which one would it be and why? Also, can you share one or two books that profoundly shaped your entrepreneurial journey and mindset?
So I would say everybody out there needs to read Atomic Habits for sure. And there's a lot of good books out there about like financial well-being. I can't even remember some of them. I'm not going to say the very cliche ones like Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like I'm not going to say that one. Those too cliche. But anyways, there's a lot of great books out there, and there's going to be different authors that resonate with you about how how you earn and how you save and how how you grow your net worth, and just find a great financial book. Go to Amazon bestsellers, read about the author. If his journey resonates with you, that's probably going to be a book you should pick up, because you definitely need to learn, about financial well-being, how to manage money, how to grow your net worth, and, how to park your money, or just how to having some financial literacy is very important in this world.
Can you recall a moment when a failure, either yours or your parents, unexpectedly set the stage for a future success? What is the story behind your favorite failure, and how did it become a pivotal moment in your career?
Yeah, I think something that kind of set the stage for me was, and I mean, there's been a lot of people, especially a lot of Americans, that have gone through this, but watching my parents divorced when I was young, and so watching this from both perspectives, because you're a child, right? Both of your parents love you, and so you see two perspectives. You see your dad's perspective and your mom's perspective during the divorce. And so the amount of information I gained from that, it was life changing. You know, you know, it showed me that life is not always perfect and life is not always easy. And you just have to take it day by day if you're struggling, or there's an infinite, especially now, there's an infinite amount of resources out there, whether it's friends or close family members, or therapists, or whatever, doctors that can help you with your journey. But that was so impactful to me because it really showed me that relationships are hard. The world's not perfect, and it really kind of divided. You feel like you're walking on a path, right? And then you get to a fork in the road. Like how do you go to the right? Do you go to the left? Or what you can do is you can go straight and go on no path. You can make your own, you can pave your own road in the center, you know? And so that's what I did. I was like, look, like this isn't easy for anybody. If my parents are struggling, like, why am I going to be happy if my parents are struggling? You know, struggling, financially, and in life, with their relationships. So yeah, it really kind of set the stage for me to be an entrepreneur. And it wasn't very, it didn't feel very traumatic then, because I just was like, I felt, oh, okay, cool. My parents are divorcing, whatever, but I can definitely look back at it now, and it shapes the way that I live every day. And it shapes the way that I have, my relationship with my wife, and it definitely impacts the people that are in my life now, you know.
Reflecting on the past 5 years, what new belief or habit have you adopted that has significantly transformed your life and work? How has this change impacted your day-to-day actions and long-term goals?
I I used to think doing things was challenging. And so I am now obsessed with efficiency. Like, how can I do the most amount of things with the smallest amount of time? And I become obsessed with that. And like that bleeds into every aspect of my life. Like, I don't want to go to the grocery store unless I can be out of the grocery store in 20 minutes or 15 minutes, like, so this insane obsession with maximizing, life is not promised, like tragedy happens every day, sadly to say, but life is not promised. And so, I've seen, as I've gotten here, like I've lost a lot of friends, friends that I thought I would grow up with and spend the rest of my life being friends with. And sadly, they're no longer here. So just, it's helped me understand. I appreciate it. It's helped me understand that life is not promised. So, you need to cherish and love every day that you're here. And I don't want to waste a moment, you know. In some people's eyes, I am wasting time. Like I like watching Netflix. I like hanging out. I like doing all the normal stuff that entrepreneurs say you're never supposed to do. Like, you have people like I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to promote him, but you have people out there that just say you need to keep working until you're dead. Like, work yourself to death. Like, and that's not sustainable. Like being an entrepreneur is a challenge, and the last thing you need to do is kill yourself to be one. Like, you have to, one of the biggest challenges you face as an entrepreneur is having that work to life balance. Understanding, I struggle with that every day. Like, I struggle with that every single day. Like, I've been on the podcast with you, and if I look at my phone, I don't know how many missed emails, text messages, whatever. There's going to be tons of them. Like, so do I answer those now? Do I answer those later? Do I answer those on Tuesday when, the normal people come back to work? Like, how do, everything, you just have to understand that time is important. People that surround you are important. Your journey is what defines you as an entrepreneur, and it'll make or break you, and I'm a normal guy, I'm a normal guy, I'm a normal guy with an obsession, and that obsession is what led me to entrepreneurship. And so, I like my downtime. There's times where I'll go watch Netflix, and me and my wife watch these stupid shows together. Whereas like dating, like, these weird reality dating shows and stuff, and we're always making fun of the characters and all that. But that's a part of your journey. Like, having downtime is normal. Like, don't kill yourself.
Indeed, celebrate every minute and every small victory. Nothing in life is promised, and being an entrepreneur is challenging enough. As is often said, entrepreneurs may work 70 hours a week instead of 40, so it's important to take a step back occasionally, savor the moment, and relax because certain things will inevitably be beyond your control. Embracing these moments can rejuvenate your spirit and help maintain the balance necessary for long-term success.
Exactly. There is something that I would like to further enhance on that. And we talked about it earlier in the pod. But if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, do something you love. Do an industry that you love, and then becomes the question: if I love what I'm doing, am I working? And I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer to that. So, like, when my wife is like, "Oh, you just did this or did that or you did that," I hate to keep, like, I feel I'm not throwing my wife under the bus. I'm just, throwing her perspective in here. But, am I really working? I don't know. I don't feel like I'm working, but I mean, I'm not doing nothing. I'm doing something, but I don't know if I'm working, So as you progress as an entrepreneur, you need to understand that, especially if you're in an industry that you love. it's really easy for you to just go wild, to uncontrollably, work, right? And work yourself to death because, somebody told you need to do that to be successful, or you just get lost in your passion or your purpose or whatever. So I don't have an answer to that, but it will happen to anybody who is an entrepreneur.
Imagine you have the chance to put up a billboard in the heart of Times Square with a message for millions to see. What would your message be? And what do you hope people take away from it?
That's a hard one. I'd probably say something about watches. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know. But let me tell you my mentality. Let me explain my mentality, and that may answer the question. Because like I said, right, when I talked about watch collecting, like my watch that I'm wearing right now tells me this moment, right? It tells me it's 1:32, p.m. But I can look at it, and if I look at my watch, I know it'll tell me the time at 2 p.m. or 2:30 or 3 or 4 or 10 or midnight. It'll tell me time for as long as I want it to. As long as I take care of it, as long as I want it to tell me time, it will tell me time. But I can also look back on it and say, all right, I got this watch. I got this exact watch that I'm wearing on my 31st birthday, right? So I acquired this on my 31st birthday. And between now and then, like I said, I have enjoyed every second of owning this and wearing this. And so it I want to see, and that leads back to my mission, what I'm doing now. Like, I want to see this hobby of watch collecting grow. I want to see it thrive because it is a really inspiring hobby because of that, right? It tells you the future, it tells you the past. What other hobby does that? So if I were to choose the words on a banner, it would say watches tell the future and the past. Boom. So buy a watch. Buy a watch. Yeah, yeah. And then it would have a link to a good watch shop. Buy now. Buy your watch now.
Sometimes the smallest investments make the biggest impact. What purchase of $100 or less in the last 6 months has had a surprisingly positive effect on your life, and why?
You know, I am obsessed with music. So I have been going down like a rabbit hole of vinyl records, and so I've been going back and on Spotify, listening to my favorite albums and then buying them on vinyl. And it gives me a fresh perspective on something that is a classic to me. Like one of my favorite albums is like Daft Punk Discovery. Great, great record, great album. And so, I have gone and I've heard every single song on that album a million times, and when I got it on vinyl, like it gave me a new perspective, a fresh perspective. So the small things that help me enjoy things that I do every day. And I have a lot of small things that I buy that help me, in the bigger picture, help me grow professionally and personally or whatever. Headphones, right, is one of them. And I've got really expensive headphones. I got really cheap headphones. These that I use for podcasting are relatively cheap, but surprisingly, I use them more than my expensive ones because of their studio headphones. So the fidelity is there. Records, right? Records, vinyl records. I know that sounds weird, but for every watch that I own, I have like a million straps for. So I'll change the watch straps to make it feel like a new watch or to complement my outfit or whatever. And a lot of the watches that I buy, they have the same. So, but between this and this, these are lugs. It is a lug width, and that lug width essentially tells you like if the strap will fit your watch. So surprisingly, a lot of the watches that I buy in with planning are watches that have a 20 millimeter lug width. So I have a portfolio, a book. It's just a big binder with like hundreds of straps that are all 20 millimeters. So I can put them on 90 or 80% or 90% of my watches can all use the same straps. So and you know, straps can be expensive, but I have some cheap ones that are under $100, under $50 that I love. And phone chargers. Phone chargers. I can never seem to have enough phone chargers. You know, I was at I was at a doctor's office and I was doing like a sleep study, and anyways, I had like a really expensive charger. It was like $100 charger, and then the cord was like another $100 because it was like a super fast charger. You know, it wasn't like a slow one, right? And anyways, so I left the doctor's office. I slept at the doctor's office at night, and they were observing me as I sleep and all this. And I left my charger there. And then I get home and I realized I was like, oh shoot. Like I just left a $200 phone charger, you know, at the doctor's office. So I called and they were like, oh yeah, like we've got it. We've got it here, you know. And this is on the other side of Las Vegas. It's not easy to get there. So I was like, okay, I'll be there, you know, just hang on to it, you know, for a couple weeks or something and I'll come by. And so I got there and they were looking everywhere for my phone charger, you know, and they're like, oh, we don't have it. I don't know what happened to it. You know, it's not here. And I was like, but somebody told me that I was here and somebody told me they had it, you know, and they're like, no, it's not here. And I was like, and this sounds really weird, but this also goes back to me being stubborn. I was like, okay, well, I have some outstanding medical bills to you. Let me know when you find my charger and then I'll pay those medical bills off. You know, let me know. And I will never forget the way the lady looked at me like I was crazy, you know, because I mean they weren't like huge medical bills. They were a few $100s, you know, but I just lost a $200 phone charger. So if you're going to deduct that $200 phone charger from my medical bills because you lost it, I didn't lose it. I just misplaced it and I found it and you found it and you lost it. So, and when I told that lady that, she looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, okay, we'll use that $200 towards my medical bills, you know, and I'm not going to pay until you find it or you tell me that you've used that $200 towards my medical bills. And I will tell you what, they have never called me since then. They have never asked. They have never sent me a bill. They have never done anything like that. So yeah, phone chargers are important.
For a passionate young entrepreneur fresh out of college, ready to dive into the real world, what unconventional advice would you offer to help them stand out? Additionally, what common myths about entrepreneurship should they completely ignore?
You know, I think the path to entrepreneurship is very confusing. There's no like secret book, right? Like there's a million authors out there that are going to want to sell you a book on entrepreneurship that's not going to be relatable to you. Like, oh, here's my entrepreneur journey, how to be an entrepreneur. Like, you know, there's in cybersecurity, there's no formula, there's no recipe to being an entrepreneur. So one thing that I would say in my early journey as an entrepreneur, I was looking at other entrepreneurs to say, hey, like maybe I can follow their journey. You know, maybe their journey, I could take a page out of their journey, you know, or whatever. I felt like that was possible, but it's not. It's not possible. Like the most impactful thing is avenues like yours, like this podcast, where I could talk about my perspective and my journey as an entrepreneur, and hopefully people will take some of my lessons or some of my advice or or whatever and translate it into their life, right? Not necessarily my journey. Like, you don't have to be a filmmaker who turns into a marketing guy, who turns into a cybersecurity guy, who turns into a watch collector. Like, you don't have to be any of those things. Like, and so I promote people to fail, right? Like you need to fail a shit ton before you know what it is that you want to do. Like, you need to do a bunch of stupid things that you hate before you really realize what it is that you love. So you need to understand that. Two, you have to have that, persistentness. Like if somebody were to come to you and say, hey, I'll give you $100,000 or $1 million or whatever to stop what you're doing right now, would you stop? And if the answer is yes, what are you doing? What are you doing in this? What are you doing being an entrepreneur? So looking at it from that perspective, that's a simple way to determine if it's a good fit for your motivation and your entrepreneurial goals, your dreams. And then two, entrepreneurship is not about, or three, sorry, entrepreneurship is not about you as an entrepreneur. It's about the people that you impact, and yeah, so there's nothing glorious about being an entrepreneur, and you look at people like Elon Musk and all this, who, Jeff Bezos, who are the epitome of an entrepreneur, and if you look to people like that to grow your entrepreneurial journey, it's just going to be a disappointing journey, because, their success, however inspiring it is not typical. You can be an entrepreneur and make $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year and be a perfectly awesome entrepreneur. You don't have to be a millionaire, billionaire to be a successful entrepreneur. You have to understand that it's not all fame and glory and riches. Entrepreneurship is all about investing in yourself, right? It's not about investing in a product or a service. It's about investing in yourself. So, as your journey unfolds, you will define what that means to you and how you can invest in yourself and how that relates to whatever it is you're building as a product or service, right? So your self invested time, energy, money, effort is always going to be more impactful than putting it into a product or putting it into a service. So self-investing is very important in my opinion. And yeah, so just make sure you're doing what it is that you want to do in this world, and that you're motivated enough to continue doing it despite everybody telling you how stupid of an idea it is. And yeah, just be patient and yeah, don't use my journey or any of your other guests' journey as like, okay, I have to be like Blake to be successful. Like, no, that's impossible and that's silly. So you as an entrepreneur will define your own success, right? So understanding that is very important. Exactly. Like, your journey to where you are here is not my journey. And the people that are listening to this, they're all going to have different journeys. So understanding that is very important. Like, there's some toxic entrepreneurial advice out there. And anybody who is, like, I think the most dangerous thing about being an entrepreneur is obviously you're hungry, right? So you're hungry, and you go you go on these these journeys to find information or whatever. And during your journey, you're going to find somebody who is selling you something based upon your entrepreneurial dreams, right? Gurus, right? Like gurus, right? Like, hey, I want to show you how I quadrupled my business and how I became a millionaire, billionaire, and how I bought this Lamborghini, how about I bought these Rolexes or whatever, and all I need for you to do is to show me that you're serious about being an entrepreneur. And you show me you're serious about being an entrepreneur by paying $500. That's how you show me you're serious, or $1,000 or $20,000, or you're a weak person if you don't sign up for my courses or whatever, like that is so toxic to me, because, and I always ask myself this, and I never really bought into any of them, thankfully. I kind of saw through it, but I was like, look, if you're so successful as crypto investor, or, and whatever business it is, if you're so successful that, how come you're not doing that? Why are you, selling these courses? Oh, you're so generous. You're so generous to show us the information that you've learned, in your professional career, but you're charging for it. Like, a real successful entrepreneur will not charge to help somebody, and so I think that that's so toxic, and I would hate to see somebody fall into those traps. Question everything. A lot of times, you can learn some of this stuff yourself, through YouTube or through podcasts, or reading, or news articles. Like, the more challenges you face as an entrepreneur, the more successful you're going to be as an entrepreneur. But if you buy into some silly guru or some silly course or something, and they say, look, here's what you need, copy my model to be a successful business owner. Like, and then you fail, they don't give you the recipe for failure. They give you the recipe for success, like, so then you just become demotivated, you lose motivation. You say, look, entrepreneurship's not for me because I can't, do this Amazon FBA or whatever, whatever, this YouTube automation or drop shipping. I'm never going to be successful because I don't have a successful Shopify drop ship store, like, whatever. Right. So I think that's very toxic, and that's very dangerous for entrepreneurs. If they're a real successful entrepreneur, they're not going to be charging you, for that's the product. You are the product if they're charging you for information.
Blake, as an entrepreneur, maintaining personal health and fitness can often be as crucial as managing a business. Can you share how you integrate fitness and well-being into your busy schedule, and what impact do you feel it has on your effectiveness as a leader?
Yeah. I mean, I will say, fitness is something that I've struggled with a lot. I am over invested in a lot of what I do right now. I am running at a level that I never really expected. I try to focus more on the nutrition than I do on the fitness, because that is, something like I've got to eat, right? Like, I've got to eat, or, yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, I'm in the process right now of trying to translate healthy lifestyle habits, like healthy eating, to, to a successful physical, like, impact or physical activity. So I have an exercise bike right here, which you can't really see, but and yeah, and so, I found, as an entrepreneur, you find excuses and then you find solutions for those excuses. And so, like, my wife was like, "Oh, how come you don't want to go to the gym?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to drive to the gym. I don't want to go to the, I don't want to have to change. I don't want to have to shower after the gym, whatever. I don't want to have to do all this. I don't want to have to go look for an exercise bike or whatever, or, I used to go to this cardio fitness, and it was like a TV, it was like a cinema in the gym, and they had like a huge TV. They play some stupid ass movie, and I was like, they're always playing stupid ass movies. Like, I don't like any of the movies they're playing, So, like, I found these excuses, and then, my solution is my exercise bike, and it has a tablet on it, so I can put whatever movie I want on it, and I don't have to go to the gym. So, and yeah, I haven't used it as much as I'd like, in all honesty, but I am showing myself that, I need to prioritize it, you know.
Thank you, Blake, for sharing your journey and wisdom with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this. I love what you're doing. I'm a huge fan of the show, and I'm glad I was able to come on and and make it work. You know, we had some scheduling issues and finally got it to work out. But but yeah, I'm glad that you invited me on, and I'm really glad what you're doing. You know, there's a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts out there, and you know, there's I like how unfiltered your show is and how it's just raw and you know, yeah, I'm a fan. So
And that wraps up another insightful episode of Entrepreneurship Unboxed. A big thank you to Blake Rea for sharing his journey and wisdom with us. From cybersecurity compliance to digital marketing and filmmaking, Blake's story is a powerful reminder of how diverse passions can drive innovation and success. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your network. Let's continue to unbox the unfiltered truths of entrepreneurship together. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, embracing challenges, and unboxing your entrepreneurial potential. I'm Ajay signing off.